Director of Digital News Media at Signal Media. Welcome to the Disruptive by Design podcast. Signal is the official news outlet of AFCEA International, and Disruptive by Design features voices of our emerging leaders under 40 years of age. In this episode of Disruptive by Design, I'm speaking with Dr. Jennifer Miller, who is at the Defense Health Agency in their business operations. I really love Dr. Miller's perspective. She comes from the financial side of things. She specializes in finance, accounting, budget for the military. She was a civilian in the Army and the Air Force before joining DHA. And she talks about her unique role at DHA as the first director of staff business operations. So she's spread her wings from that initial finance specialization into business operations. And it's, I think, an exciting field. And she notes that they're hiring at DHA. So if you have any interest in this career, definitely check out the opportunities there. And Dr. Miller shares how she achieved her bachelor's and master's and doctorate. And the doctorate was in business administration. So I don't think too many people know about that kind of specialization that's a little bit different. And she loves learning and studying and kind of always improving. And she gives great advice about networking and how to really leverage professional development organizations and other associations. She talks about her certifications and why they're important. And with all this enthusiasm and expertise and passion, Dr. Miller is also a prolific writer, which is really great. I don't think you always see somebody who comes from a financial, budgetary, kind of mathematical side that loves writing, but she's a whiz with words. And Dr. Miller's penned many of our Disruptive by Design columns for our print magazine. If you don't know, we have a monthly column in our Signal magazine that features the voices of those under 40, our emerging leaders, and it's called Disruptive by Design, just like the name of our podcast. So definitely check out issues where she was our columnist. Check out especially the upcoming issue, September 2023. And she talks about leadership and gives great advice about kind of what it is like to work in the workforce as a civilian. And as it is with reading her contributions, it is a pleasure to speak with her. I always learn something new. And with that, welcome to Disruptive by Design with Dr. Jennifer Miller. Hi, Dr. Miller. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi there. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thanks. And yourself?
Yes, I think so. We've had some storms, some weather, but we're coming toward the end of summer. I think we've all survived it pretty well.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to speak on the Disruptive by Design podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I might be an oddball for this audience, but I'm definitely a contributor, a fan, a longtime member, and that's afforded me many opportunities we might get to talk to later. I might get to pitch and plug a little bit. We'll see. So I've always been a green shade wearing type. So finance, audit, cost, budget, money, all things in Department of Defense. Gotten to serve two different armed services. So that's Army and Air Force, and then two components within there. And at this time, I'm with Defense Health Agency at their headquarters as a biz ops type, so business operations manager. Great team, and I say I'm becoming dangerous in other areas like personnel and manpower. So very exciting, continuous growth and learning. It's been a wonderful journey, and I joke that the honeymoon with DHA hasn't gone yet. So we're recruiting, we're hiring. Hit me up on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's always important to hear about opportunities. So yeah, we can delve into kind of what it's like to work at DHA. And I love that you're in biz ops. How did you get into that? And I know you're a Dr. Miller. Can you tell us about kind of your degree that kind of got you there?
Sure. So way back in high school, I thought, I want to be a teacher, but definitely not little kids. So as I progressed on, I realized, you can be an academic, but for older people, meaning more mature youth as well as adults. And that kind of stuck in my mind for quite some time. And then we all know costs are going through the roof when it comes to student debt, tuition, board, all of these things. So I decided to pursue full-time education starting in high school and then carried on through with work and got lucky enough to secure a government job. So that was awesome. And before you know it, I back to back did bachelor's to master's to doctorate, and that's Doctor of Business Administration. Little did I know, many years later, after finance, accounting, budget, and otherwise, I would have an opportunity to transition from financial management with a massive, awesome program, the Reserve Health Readiness Program, and stay with DHA to transition into the first ever Director of Staff Business Operations Manager. So very fun, unique. You never know what's coming ahead, but things start to align.
Right, sure. And what's the with work program that I'm not familiar with, or I guess how did you do, the bridge from high school to working and then studying?
Oh, got you. So dual enrolled in high school,
Oh, gotcha.
college, and high school at the same time, then continued to stay at home, but working full time and going to school full time. And an opportunity I think many of us might remember 10 or so years ago now was to be a federal intern. And you're not a federal intern in the sense of, oh, I'm free labor. You're actually getting your salary, your benefits, your contribution to retirement plan, and everything else as a rapid pace, rapid promotion, education and training and OJT and all of these opportunities, full-time employee who should be graduating the program and staying with government if all things work out as both parties intend. So that's where I had a phenomenal opportunity to continue with education and full-time employment with federal government as a quote unquote intern, but you were just like a regular full-time employee. And from there, you kind of set your own path after that.
Right. Wow. Yeah. That sounds like a great opportunity.
I think today it goes by pathways, and that's a massive umbrella for your contracting, your finance, engineering, logistics, all things federal internships.
Yeah. So good. That's great for our audience. Thank you. So people check that out. Pathways.
Yes, USA Jobs has pages on it. You'll constantly see them advertised, some of them more particular than others, and those larger announcements are more finite. Definitely apply and find those contacts that are listed, like reach out to them, find out what they're also hiring for.
Right, sure. And I think you started out working for some of the military services. Kind of, I guess, how did you get interested in working for the military, or how did you kind of end up there?
Well, end up might have a negative connotation. I try not to think of it that way, but you are right. As I traverse, sometimes people went, oh, you're going there, or you're going here. I don't know if I would, whether it was location or service. We all have our particulars. So for me, I'd grown up not directly affiliated with military. It was more very distant past of my grandparents, or I'd hear, what is civil service? And I think, yeah, I have no idea who is in that right now, what it was like, if it's the same now as it used to be when they retired 20 years ago kind of deal. So then I came up toward my more senior years of high school, and recruiters were all over. We're a very small high school out in nowhere land. So very popular target, if you will, for their recruiting for uniform positions, reserve, guard, as well as active duty. And some of the top-notch admired peers of mine were getting picked up. And I thought, oh, that must be a good thing. Like, these are smart kids I admire. They're making good decisions, I think. But my parents, being an only child, they were very not huge fans of it, I'll say. And I noticed recruiters too. Once they would learn I'm an only kid, or I'm already so far into college, the sales pitch was kind of done for them. And they were like, you are not going to be an easy target anymore. But I was like, no, you've got to let me at least continue on the process. Then scoliosis of the spine popped up. Not severe at all, by all means. I think now you can get in with the amount that I had. So that was another, heart-wrenching moment of, okay, maybe this is not my route to wear uniform. And then I joined the bachelor's degree, very local bachelor's degree of my college, where I was staying at home and going to college and working full-time. And that afforded me an insight into civil service. What are they doing? What does Eglin Air Force Base do? What are the job demands in our area? So project management, bachelor's degree. And at the very end, with the Great Recession looming, I said, okay, let me entertain this government job thing that's not uniform wearing. And it was an info session, not an interview. However, I was booked, sold. I found an employer opportunity where they were going to invest as much in me as I wanted to them. And I applied everything that they had on this list for me. And then you wait. And it's a black hole. It's a time-consuming, slow process. I understand it still is today for some. And that's kind of where it all took off and went from there, of rapid pace and promotion and TDYs and all sorts of opportunities, and a move to Alabama.
Right. And so you grew up in Florida, in the panhandle of Florida?
I did. And these job opportunity notices, like some of you probably know, the robo notices of how you're progressing through the process of being looked at or making a cert or certificate. Nebraska, Texas, and Alabama came up, and I went, well, I know where that one's going to put me.
Got it. Right. And so, and what was it like to work, for the Air Force and for the Army? I guess Army first, or I guess Eglin's obviously Air Force, and then
Yes.
Alabama was Army.
Alabama was actually Air Force, but you are right that they have a healthy Army population as well throughout the state, and they had Gunner Annex at the time just across the city of Montgomery. So for me, it was Air Force. Wonderful program, wonderful, hospitable people, and actually an Army family was who sponsored me. And so I continually thought more and more of what all of these other interns that were in the same cohort as me were not getting. And I thought, oh, well, I'm just so lucky. This is awesome. I'm so glad that this happened, because there was a lot of nervousness going and leaving home and continuing to work and do college at the same time. And then the environment with the economy, a lot of stress, a lot of nerves, and a lot of people doing 180s about what they thought for their future, for their job, for their families. So much was up in the air.
Right, sure. And then tell us about your role at DHA in this, I guess, biz ops, and kind of what are you up to? What's your role and what are you working on right now?
Woo. So it has been something of a whirlwind. Came over right at the beginning of the pandemic. So you can imagine a lot of naysayers there of, do you know what you're getting into? Do you know what's coming down the pike? And I don't think any of us did with COVID-19. So came over, been teleworking and remote working since. However, that doesn't seem to have affected performance from what I've observed with both the teams I've worked with, the individuals as well, and then my own self. And I'm quite enthused and impressed at going from a convert of no, telework only if you have to, only if you need to going, no, this really does actually work. At least for the positions I'm exposed to. I understand security guards, not so much. I get it. So it's been kind of wild. I was, like I said, with Reserve Health Readiness Program, wonderful tiny finance team with massive scope and involvement, a real project office, if you will. And then got to move on over to a promotion that at first I thought, no way I'll get picked for it. No way am I a good fit. No, there's so many other people that are known entities and assets that they'll get picked, no big deal. But fortunately, I was chosen and then walked into the role. And then we had a shakeup in our organization and a 2-phase, 1 fiscal year reorg that I was embarking on. Didn't quite know that was coming. And that went another experience that you only can journal and write home about, really. I mean, how many times do you get to experience that in a career and it be a full agency, and you've got our director that was going out. We now have a new director who's bringing on the advancement, which I understand is also a reorg. But that is going to be exciting. And that's the right now that's going on of another leader. So another legacy, another fingerprint, another vision that's going on. And how do we best cater and make that happen while not letting down any of our stakeholders, both services and the beneficiary individuals and all else that we have active and retired.
Right, sure. And what kind of systems or products do you create that to assist in your organization? Or what are you overseeing?
What was that?
Or what are you overseeing? So, if it's
sure. So it's everything. It's resource management, it's your manpower, personnel, recognition programs and systems, the uprooting and movement as a whole and unified way of entire organizations. So for instance, we had a J3, a J5, a J7. Within that first reorg, they all came together. So you can imagine some of those attitudes and personalities and priorities that lift and shift and merge. And then we had others where we're really working to refine processes and implement improvements. So I joke, some of the team members that came over to me, they are the concierge customer service. They've got it down. They had SOPs. They were phenomenal in their respective areas with awards and recognition and time, civ pers and everything. And then they come over to us and they recognize, oh, you're tiny and you don't have quite all of what we had because we were standing up as an organization. So it was very interesting to work them in and have them take a step back to bring us where we need to be. And I think we're still experiencing a lot of that in the areas that we do and don't adopt or support or interim support to.
All right, sure. And any other challenges that you can talk about kind of that you faced or overcome, either related to the reorg or kind of what you talked about, bringing different personalities together?
There's definitely the challenge of our tools and communications. So for instance, we had a massive switchover going from what was Microsoft Teams and what everybody knows is Microsoft Teams and the Microsoft Suite to a Med 365. So it's awesome. It's got the additional security. It's got different change of emails for us. I think you might have even been communicating with me at that time when we had months of people switching their emails over. And as much of a pain process as it is to do a transition, the results are amazing. You cannot deny some of the improvements we've made switching from one platform to another, or how we are using it, and then getting people trained up. It's been phenomenal to see the difference. And of course, people have the light bulb moment too. Oh, I can do this with that. I can do that. And, teach me to screen share. It might be simple or more complex, but it's definitely been an improvement.
Right, sure. And then, of course, AFCEA is a professional association. How did you first learn about AFCEA or other organizations that are important, for people to kind of help with their careers?
So I'd say the first one was American Society of Military Comptrollers. They were kind of the, as an intern in financial management or budget or cost or anywhere, you will be exposed to it. It's part of our program. I think it's even mentioned. And it's a very close-knit but massive community. So that was the automatic one. Mentors, supervisors, rotations, anything. I was again and again exposed to our local robust 5-star chapter there in Montgomery, Alabama. And then someone mentioned to me, oh, hey, when you get familiarized with this enough, whatever, add another one. So Association of Government Accountants, as it was named at that time, came up. And they also had a nice, flush chapter in Montgomery as well. And they are more of your state, local, federal government focused professional association for financial management. And then my mentors, a set of them, one very heavy in IT and comms and electronics and things, said, hey, you might want to check out AFCEA. And I said, what is that? I've not heard this one yet. Turns out Montgomery has a massive flourishing chapter as well, and offered so much more. I feel like they had a much broader scope of individuals demographically. So that's where I actually found other interns. I was the only one in Alabama until linking up with AFCEA and discovering others at Gunner Annex, and then figuring out they've got a massive chapter and they're very active with the breakfast and the lunch and the dinners and the golf, everything going on. And that was a phenomenal introduction, so that I maintained membership with all 3 organizations as I've traversed the last 13 or so years along the East Coast.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I guess what advice would you have for people about whether or not to join a professional association? Why did you think that was important? Why did you even go for the first one and then the other 2?
Well, I think they all have a little bit of different benefit and advantage there. So there's the networking for some, it's kind of a must have for maybe your career field, especially as an intern coming up, seemed like a must have. And then you start to learn, oh, they have certifications. Oh, they can help you with your continuous learning and education points once you're certified, or if your career field requires it anyway. And then there's what kind of activities are they into? Do they support good causes? Are they helpful to stay in touch and stay abreast? Do they have good products? Like, we know, I'm going to plug it, Signal magazine. So I've read every single one for the last how many years, and it's just excellent content. And I guess get the hard copy because I dog ear it and everything else. But increasingly so, like you've done here with the podcast, it's more and more innovative content that's coming out and helping, so that really, if you're audio, visual, got to be hands-on, tactile, there's probably something for you. And I'm huge on the volunteering component. Mm-hmm. So maybe you don't like to do the same volunteering that one does, branch off into the other one.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice. And then one thing I love about the podcast, and it was our vice president's idea to kind of feature voices under 40. Our category of emerging leaders at AFCEA, and kind of, people of that age who are, kind of either young and coming up in their career or a little more established. What's been your experience with AFCEA's emerging leaders group, and kind of what's unique about it maybe, and I guess why is it important from your perspective?
Definitely. So I'll say one of the big unique parts is the intentional networking. Networking for years has gotten that bad rap of, oh, you're salesy, oh, you're doing transactional business, oh, you just need a job, that's why you're quote unquote networking. And instead, this has an intentionality of, no, we're actually trying to pick brains, couple up, get group to one ratios and otherwise to connect you all, because there's a ton of that learning material, education, OJT, that's not necessarily going to be written down that you're going to consume. The stories that are shared, the different insights, lessons learned, areas, going through different things geographically. I mean, I don't know if I could really put a price on some of the content that is there to be taken if you want to be a part of it, because it's definitely being pushed and given. But that connection that's made, I think emerging leaders really helps with. And I know that it targets 40 or younger, which is another bold thing that other organizations are very careful about. And I think, no, you need some cutoff to give people a little clarification of intent, number, and fit. Even if they may not like being over 40, they have that mentality fit of, okay, so here's where my cap and my role and my character is supposed to be when I'm engaging with and taking part in some of these activities.
Right, sure. And then I see you as a powerhouse leader. Can you talk about leadership skills and kind of how have you gone about developing your own leadership skills, and how hard is it to develop and kind of lead in either a military organization or a civilian organization? And I guess what your experience has been.
Oh, I'd say since coming into the intern program, it was very easy. Everything was paved out and you've got more than enough of a lifetime worth of the training, both what was mandatory for the courses and the education and training, and then the recommendations of pursue higher education, become a member here or there, become engaged with these other activities and office sort of events and otherwise that go on, and really carve out and practice your leadership before it's thrown on you. And here you are drinking from a fire hose and you don't have the choice to practice anymore. It's for real. So I would say that part of it was easy. Not all people, of course, have come in through an intern program to have that firm foundation, but I've seen others where they go, well, just, give me the guide, give me some ideas, hook me up with a mentor or a coach. And then they are off 60 miles per hour in the right direction, whether it's tapping into some DAU courses or using like a formalized mentor network. Some organizations have those ready to go. You can, of course, create your own. Templates are everywhere on Google. And of course, again, staying trendy and hip with things that are going on, whether you're federal government or not. User guides and user manuals have come out in the last few years as very hot items to sort of prime that pump of communication with where you're going, how you conduct yourself and your way of work, and getting that out there with other people so they can respect it, but maybe also use your example and give you one as well.
Right, sure, yeah. And then, given that you're in financial management, I know certain certifications are important. Can you talk about the different ones you have? I think PMP, CGFM, CDFM-A, I guess, what are all those? What do they mean? Why are they important? And how has it helped you to have certain certifications?
Sure, I may go in reverse order. So CDFMA
Yeah, sure.
is the Certified Defense Financial Manager with Acquisition Specialty. So it is exam-based. It's got an ethics component as well as education and experience. So a lot of bolstering elements before you can actually be dubbed with the designation. And similar to the CGFM, which is the Certified Government Financial Manager, they're very similar in those ways: the education, the experience, ethics, and then the exams. So with that, it gives you a whole lot of credential as well as clout when it comes to competing, interviewing, when you're in the workplace, whether you paid attention and test well or not. It does speak very well of what effort you have put into and what things you've at least been exposed to, if not experienced in, when rubber meets the road to talk about or tackle things in the workplace, all things financial management, budget, and otherwise. CDFMA, huge focus on Department of Defense, defense related, as opposed to CGFM, which is all three levels of government. And bless all of those people who become masters in all three, because they readily admit, oh, I'm really, really good, or I've only worked in this area, maybe two. It's really tough to accomplish all three. But at least the exam content for all of them is phenomenal. I kept mine actually, and then went through it again during COVID, thinking I'll refresh myself and read and catch a ton of differences as well. And then the latest one was the PMP, so Project Management Professional. I'd put it off for years and years despite having an undergrad in project management, because I continuously thought, I don't have the education. Once I got the education, I don't have the experience. I'm not the right fit. Oh, there's a boot camp to this thing. Oh, there's a lot of costs involved too. So perks to DHA, they hosted the whole boot camp, paid for the whole situation. And I said, all right, I can't avoid this anymore. I really do need to get one more certification and then I'll be done. I do have a different one. It's the Defense Financial Manager Certification Program. Comes in levels, but there's not an exam. And I really think it's It's probably been watered down to an extent, but still fabulous content, and you got to continue the education for it. So I'm not a complete naysayer about it, but definitely these 3 certifications that we're talking about, top notch, definitely get it. And PMP in particular, I was kicking myself in the butt for not having done it sooner. Because I'm like, now I know the lingo, and now look, it was relatively easy once you're in it and exposed and grasp it, and then practicing it with a whole bunch of other PMPs. DHA has several. So I was definitely like, yep, should have got that sooner, but stars align again. So you sometimes lean in the pocket, wait, it'll come.
Yeah. And I love that DHA had a program to help you, on that path to get it, to kind of help, make it easier.
And for all of you, I've heard industry friends of mine too, where they're like, we had a lull or a gap between contracts or something. And so they decided to invest in their employees. Phenomenal idea. Great way to spend their time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't go wrong investing in your employees. Absolutely. And then what advice do you have for people coming up, for the rest of emerging leaders that out there, or, not even necessarily in AFCEA, but what advice do you have for somebody coming up in financial management specifically, or just in the military or government, about what they might face or your experience?
A couple of ideas for sure would mean when you're coming into an organization and everybody's got their different personalities and thoughts and things and processes, sigh and comply is one of my mantras, especially in the military environments and cultures. They have a way for a reason. And as an outsider, a new person coming in, you'll look and say, that is the dumbest, that's the slowest, that's ridiculous. But sigh and comply with it, go through one full process of whatever it is. Maybe it's the budget cycle, maybe it's task management systems and processing, whatever it is, then you'll be at the end of this recent experience to give that constructive criticism based on your recent experience. And maybe you'll have a change in attitude. Maybe you'll have even longer of a list to complain about and point out constructively alternative ways to do this that would be better. And your audience is sure to be much more receptive to someone who's recently actually gone through it and didn't fuss and drag and be a pain in the rear through it, and hopefully help you maybe join your team on, all right, let's make a little bit here for a change and a little bit there. There's also the idea, General Lorenz, Air Force retired general, very, very published here, there, and everywhere. And he had this idea of stay objective to be effective. And I thought that's good, because that puts away the idea and the mentality of, oh, they don't like me, but you have no evidence to support it. It's all in your head. But if you stay objective, the email came to me from so-and-so and it had this tone. Well, that doesn't mean they don't like you, but now you're staying objective to the facts of what happened, what contained, what was there, instead of blowing it into something that it probably was never intended to be. So whether you're in meetings or going through debates or having to be the person tasked with bad news, stay objective, try to eliminate the you, me, we, it, they, them. No, we're all in it together, and the facts are going to be the same, hopefully, no matter what angle you're looking at it from.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And then you've written so many great columns for us. Signal Magazine, if people don't know, has a monthly column to feature voices under 40 called Disruptive by Design. And you've been an amazing author for us, a prolific writer. Kind of how did you have that interest, in addition to financial management, of writing, and how did you learn how to write and kind of keep your writing skills current, I guess?
So I have a colleague who would say proud public product, or what is it? Proud product of public education, or something cute like this, where I go, it's not all that bad. So in that case, yes, all public educated, which I don't think is too bad, depending on where you went and how much you paid attention. So that would be the essence of where I learned. But I would say more in the workplace, what I learned for sure in finance, especially, and perhaps some of these other career fields that are going to be majority of your audience. If you can figure out where it is that people are weak and don't gravitate to within your career field and exploit it, you've probably just put some feathers in your cap. So why do people go to finance? Why do people take their receipts to their tax preparer at the end of the year? There you go. Some ideas of, because they do or don't like numbers, because they do or don't like writing, because they do or don't like engineering and mathematics and things. So that's where I said, oh, well, this is tremendous. I can write. I took extra courses whenever I was in college as well as high school in the writing and literary, creative and hard form and style. my doctorate degree to flip my world upside down, and I had to learn something totally new and thought, I think I hate writing again, but also reading. So if you can read and nourish yourself, whether it's magazine articles or writing them and drafting them, sometimes it can be fun to put the cap on and say, I'm going to write like that person, or I really like their writing. I want to model it. Blogging is hugely popular now. Give it a whirl, spin, see how it goes. And I would say the practice and playing with it. So don't treat it so much like a job. We do have to write as part of a lot of our jobs all the time anyway. So if you can have fun with it or get inspired, or I've told people I like to find stuff I don't know about and then explore it very surface level and then write about it, but in language that other people will understand to help get the word out, get the exposure out, and break it down for people. There are also other incentives too. I think we all know publications look good on your resume. For some of our officers and enlisted too, you can benefit from these sort of things. It's volunteering. It can get you CPEs or continuous learning points of some nature, depending on what you need it for. There's also essays and awards. I think we all like money, free trips to places if you really got something going there. And then co-authorship is another thing. I am, of course, a nerd and education advocate, so I completely understand it is going to pay off much later as well. But if you go through my resume, I think I'm over 70 pubs now. And that's where I look and I go, yeah, that one's kind of bubblegum. And this one's hardcore, heavy reference, peer reviewed, woo-woo kind of publication. So play with it, see where you fit. You may build up to, or you may bounce around. But definitely co-authoring can help to ease some of the effort that goes into it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And then what advice would you have for more senior leaders kind of about the upcoming generations? If you could, shed some light that they, might be valuable for them to hear about your experience or the coming generations that it's important for them to notice.
Ooh, this is kind of a tough one because obviously I want to charge a consulting fee. Kidding. But I am of that nature where I'm sure they look at me the same way, although slightly adjacent, that I look at them. Meaning, oh, you could be my daughter. Oh, you could be my niece, my cousin, nephew, niece. However, my younger generation family member that's not supposed to be working with me in their minds. However, we look at them the same way of, oh my gosh, you could be my father, grandfather, grandparent, uncle, whatever. And that can be very awkward, but I would highly encourage that they embrace it. I heard a lovely bit not too long ago where some of your current workplace senior managers and leaders were talking about kids are now kids, quote unquote. These are graduates from college. They are not kids, but they are coming out of the schools, the institutions, the CERT programs, VOTEC, otherwise. They already know a ton of the technology that we are sometimes struggling to procure, let alone train on it and then do train the trainer. So use these assets. They're coming out. They've got it. If you don't use it, they're going to lose it. They're going to be rusted, antiquated. So we're assets still, all of us, no matter what our age is, no matter the demographic. But I'd highly encourage tap into some where mentoring can be with any age, can be any demographic. So tap into some. DHA, I really love the idea. They've done a young professionals group, but they're not too hard on what age anybody is. They prefer membership than to be sticklers about what age are you and what grade or rank are you. Instead, we want to bring them together as another outlet because we've got ideas. Our more senior leaders know what has not worked in the past, but more importantly, why did it not work? So that's where some great mind melding can go on. And I'd say the mentoring and the coaching, some of us are easier than others. So that's where we may resemble your children. Pardon our moments. We're a little different, but you were too when you were that age. So maybe infuse some of the conversations and the introductions with comedy, laughter. Please keep it politically correct. We don't need anybody on the front page anywhere.
Sure. Right. Yeah. All good advice. And was there anything you wanted to add? Those were all my questions.
I think one thing that I oftentimes share with groups would be we all get a marketing degree out of life, in my opinion, whether you went to school for it or not. So introductions, meetings, every email that you have, whether you've met with the people before or not, try to come with a smile, try to come with that pen and paper. I don't care if you're senior most or if you're junior most. Try to make these pleasant experiences when you have to engage and the technology's throwing a hissy fit tantrum and your dog's in the background. I've had alarms going on through this entire podcast, so I apologize for that for everyone. and try to be that good sport and an enduring, resilient individual. Because if you can be this way, you might change someone's entire day or week, no matter what they have going on at home. But also, that will leave that impression, the first one and subsequent. And I've had people call me out too on the phone, like, oh, you don't sound as happy as you usually do. And I go, oh, you pay attention. Like, you've never met me before, but you pay attention. And you'd be surprised what things they'll pick up on and latch onto. And you could change the whole essence of the future of your organizations having to work together. And you two might be the only ones who can speak to each other at times, because it's become that ridiculous and perhaps immature basis, perhaps serious, and has to be that way. So be the light, if you will, as you go forward, and practice not the disgenuine salesman on the shark used car lot situation, but the genuine, sincere, prime the pump, be a positive experience people want to have again with you.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's fabulous advice. And I can see why you're such an asset to DHA. Just kind of bringing the light, bringing that positive attitude, can do, get to work. Because we all need that, especially for our, country and military and government to succeed in the future. So.
Well, thank you. And I do remind too, that doesn't mean you have to be fake. We all are going to have the down times, down moments, or call it like it is and drop the BS flag. It is necessary too.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Miller. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for sharing all those insights.
Well, thank you all, and a safe remainder of the summer days we have, and maybe a smooth fall into fall.
Absolutely. Thank you.